working with Michael Schumacher. Just for readers' insight, what would you say about the positives and negatives of working with a personality like Michael Schumacher?
You know, he's a very talented driver, very professional, very motivated, and he's a leader, you know, which is a very important skill when you're in a team, because he's able to have people following him and supporting him.
What would you say those are the very strong and positive side? What would you say was it difficult to handle him as a personality, as a leader, as you say?
No, you know, we had already very common views. So if you know what you want to achieve, and if you work in this direction, it's good harmony.
What do you think of his return to Formula One? Were you view that positively?
It's his choice. You know, for the sport it was great. For him it was a big challenge. But motor racing, the talent of a driver is not enough. You need to have the best car. And probably all was that combined in order to have the same success he had in the past. But I'm sure that if they are able to combine everything, he will have more success, but it's not easy.
Just speaking about coming to Sri Lanka, what are your impressions of the current state of motorsports? I mean, we've had a civil war in this country where we haven't had the chance to develop it that much, but there's quite a strong following. There are a lot of car enthusiasts in Sri Lanka, a lot of motorsports enthusiasts. So I don't know if you've had the time to look at it in depth where our sport is, but if you have, do you have an impression of where?
You know, I arrived last night, so I went from one meeting to another one. It was interesting to meet the passion of the people who like the sport, who like car, but clearly it's really a restart, if I may say so. So I have a lot of respect for all the action which have been started, but I know it will take time, and we have to start from the beginning. So the beginning, the grassroots of motor racing is go-kart, is national rallying, is national hill climbs, and then you start to build a program, you start to build young drivers, and you will be able over the next decades to have a good level, but you cannot expect that to happen from one day to another one.
You mentioned there is a possibility, or the possible future to start off maybe some rallying in Sri Lanka. Is it still early days?
You know, the position of the FIA, as legislator. I mean, we can encourage our federation, our clubs to be involved in motorsport, but it's coming from them. You know, I think they need support from the government. They need support from the authority at the highest level to be able to build programs. And then at the FIA level, we can give them support to raise those events at the international event, at the regional event. You know, it's the Asia Pacific zone where they are competing on different championships, on rally, on racing. So I'm definitely convinced that they can apply to be part of those events, of those championships, and have some competitors coming from this part of the world to compete in Sri Lanka, where I'm sure that, you know, there is a lot to to know, a lot to understand in this country, which is not very well known at the moment.
Okay, so we have to market the country's market.
Exactly.
And in part of your main visit here, Mr. Todt, it's more on focusing on the road safety side of things, or the motorsports?
You know, I mean, it's not. We take it a lot. So for me, by visiting countries in different regions, I can learn more about their problems, about their needs, about their culture, about their ambitions. Of course, road safety is valid for each country in the world. And what is true in Asia may be different in Europe, may be different in Australia, in America, in Africa. So it's very essential challenge which we have to face all together. And on racing, it's different problems.
Were you fairly worried when you saw the state of the driving habits of Sri Lankans here? Because it can tend to be...
You know, I've been traveling in a lot of countries in the world where driving is difficult, where the road infrastructure are very poor, where education doesn't exist. I must say I was very surprised when I heard that the use of safety belt was not compulsory, because I feel that it's something which should be essential.
And just so you know, just a few questions about yourselves which are readers would like to know. What's the car that you drive at the moment, or your favorite car at the moment? Your personal?
You know, I love cars. I'm fortunate to be able to drive nice cars, but all depends for which use. So the car I may use for my normal day traveling different than the one I will take to have some fun over the weekend or to do a long distance trip. So you know, it's not one car.
What would be your daily drive? What you drive daily, just not for fun, but just your day drive?
You know, I can use a four-wheel drive. I can use a Mercedes. I can use a four-wheel drive car, depending to Toyota Infiniti, to do some different driving. I like testing different. I like to test Audi. I like to test. You know, if you have a sport car, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini. I mean, they are interesting car to drive. A Bentley.
Well, what would you say is your favorite fun car then?
Of course, Mercedes. Fun car?
Yeah.
What is a fun car?
To take for track days, for example.
I mean, you know the problem, I don't have a lot of time to have fun. But fortunately, as I was mentioning earlier, I have a passion for cars. So what I like is to, when I have some time available, is to use cars I was dreaming 50 years ago when I was a teenager. You know, and now sometimes I have the privilege to be able to drive them. So in a way, I do prefer to drive this kind of car than modern car. For me, a modern car is good to take me from one place to another one, but it's a lot of electronic, which is essential for road safety. But to enjoy driving, I prefer to have a more antique car.
You prefer more a French car, or do you lean towards Italian vehicles?
You know, you have English, German, Italian, French. You have a lot of cars which are very interesting.
At the end of the FIA, you have to balance it out. You can't give a specific way. In terms of your what would you call a favorite racing track? You've been to virtually every track in the world, I'm sure. In terms of personally for you to drive?
I would say I'm very impressed sometimes with the new circuit. You know, when you see what Abu Dhabi have realized, I mean the safety which have been employed, the technology is absolutely amazing. But I must say, have maybe a little tendency more in favor of more traditional circuit like Spa, like Suzuka. For me, I mean, it's really where racing started.
And for you personally, who would you call the greatest Formula One driver?
I don't know. You know, there is not one greatest driver. It can be a greatest driver for a decade, but not since Formula One does exist. You know, Formula One does exist since about 60 years. So you had a period with Fangio, Ascari, then you had a period with Jim Clark, Senna, Schumacher. But I mean, how could I say different was the best? I mean, somebody tell you he was, you cannot. Probably, I mean, it was much, the only thing which you can state is that racing 30, 40, 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, was much more dangerous than what it is now. You know, and it is remarkable what has been achieved in terms of improvement of safety with the cars and with the trucks. And I must say, since the accident of Ratzenberger and Senna in '94 in Imola, it has not been fatality in Formula One, which is fantastic, because 20, 30 years ago, every year you had 2, 3 people who were killed on the track.
I think our time also is. Thank you very much, Mr. Todt.
Welcome.
You would like.
Mr. Todt, I would like to present you a couple of magazines from which we published.